Well, first off, it teaches us that God meets us in the ordinary. Firstly, how God encounters Moses is worth noting, because God meets Moses in the ordinary. Verses 1-3 in our passage tells us that Moses was tending sheep, probably a very routine and mundane task for him, probably something he did every single day. We don't know how long he had been a shepherd before this all happened, but we know that it's in that ordinary day that God encounters Moses. The burning bush was unexpected. Moses didn't know that was going to happen. He had never seen anything like that before. And so as a result, that burning bush drew Moses in. He was curious, and so he stepped nearer to get a closer look. The Bible is full of stories of encounter, and I'm sure you've read many and listened to a number of them. But encounter is not just reserved for characters in the Bible. God still has encounters with people today. And God wants us to encounter him like Moses. And like Moses, God will often reveal himself in the everyday when we least expect it. Like Moses, we need to be curious. We need to step a little closer to God to get a better look. We need to pause in our life, to center ourselves in the presence of God, to pay attention to what he's doing in our lives, in the life of our communities, and to seek his presence. So like Moses, we need to be curious. When Moses steps forward to get a better look, God calls him by name from within the bush. God's interaction with Moses is personal and it's intentional. God knew that Moses was going to be there. It wasn't that he just happened to come across it. God isn't calling just anyone who passes by. He is calling Moses, and he's calling him by name. And God calls each one of us by name. He invites each one of us into encounter with him. We live in a society full of noise, don't we? There's plenty competing for our attention. The media, the social media on our smartphones. I don't know what you do when you find you have a gap in your day. Perhaps you have a moment of stillness when you're stood in a line at the supermarket. Or perhaps when you're waiting at the doctor's. For those of you who use the bus, waiting for your bus, or waiting to meet a friend. Our days are full of mini gaps, and I wonder how you feel them. If I ever find myself in a queue or having a quiet 5 minutes, this quickly becomes my posture. I reach for my phone. I check to see if I've got any messages, to see if any emails have come through. Maybe I have a quick look on the BBC website for the news. If I'm waiting for a train or a bus, I'll tend to find out when that's due. I like to know what the weather's going to be like. I tend to look at what's happening on social media. I fill my day. Those mini gaps that God gives me, I fill with my phone. I fill with other noise. And I wonder if we are using the opportunities that God gives us to pause, to become fully present in the presence, to enjoy the silence, to even actively tune into God's voice, to tune into God's presence with us, which we know he is always there. Or are we missing him calling us by name because we fill our minds and our hearts with other noise? God is waiting to have encounters with us. God is waiting to call us by name. God is ready. And when we encounter God, it's never a chance meeting like my daughter is holding out for. It's intentional. When God comes to us, it's personal. It's him drawing us to himself and requiring of us a response.